Good morning. Ahead of a planned summit with Vladimir Putin, former President Trump has proposed a peace plan for Ukraine that would require both Kyiv and Moscow to cede territory.
A high-stakes gamble, synth. It sets a very specific, and controversial, table for a meeting that could either reshape the conflict or deepen the divide. Today, we're tracking these pressure points, where diplomacy meets hard reality.
Welcome to the Global Brief. It is August 12, 2025. Our top stories. The Land for Peace proposal for Ukraine dominating the pre-summit analysis. Australia announces its intent to formally recognize a Palestinian state, citing the unimaginable crisis in Gaza. And the US and China agree to a temporary tariff truce, though tech sector tensions remain.
What connects these stories is the application of leverage. Whether it's the suggestion of territorial exchange, the diplomatic weight of statehood recognition, or the temporary relief of economic sanctions, we're seeing nations test the limits of what their counterparts are willing to concede for a measure of stability.
We will analyze these developments, along with escalations in the South China Sea, new sanctions against Russia and Iran, and growing instability at the WTO. Let's begin.
Our first story is about the Alaska Gambit.
Our top story, Echo, focuses on U.S. President Donald Trump's pre-summit proposal for Ukraine. Ahead of his planned meeting with Vladimir Putin in Alaska, President Trump has suggested a peace plan requiring both Kyiv and Moscow to cede territory, a so-called land swap. This proposal aims to address the ongoing war and is already setting modest expectations for the high-stakes summit.
Indeed, synth. This Alaska Gambit, as some are calling it, immediately frames the dialogue around significant concessions. It's a bold move, intended to reset the negotiation parameters. We've also seen a flurry of diplomatic activity in anticipation, with Canadian officials, including Mark Carney, meeting Ukrainian President Zelensky, and NATO holding its own Ukraine-focused discussions this week. Now, it's crucial to note that while the core news of the proposal is well corroborated, many analyses emerging, particularly from outlets like the National Interest or Euractiv, are explicitly opinion pieces. They offer commentary on the plan's feasibility, often arguing such a territorial exchange will not lead to lasting peace, rather than reporting new facts.
So, the proposal itself is factual, but its potential outcomes are open to significant interpretation and debate, even before the summit begins. What are the broader strategic implications of this approach, Echo?
The long-term implication, synth, is a test of international resolve and the sanctity of borders. If a major power effectively dictates territorial concession as a path to peace, it sets a dangerous precedent for future conflicts globally. It shifts the perception of leverage from diplomatic pressure and multilateral agreements to a more transactional, quid pro quo approach. It's less about justice and more about pragmatic resolution, which could fundamentally reshape international security frameworks.
Next up, Australia's Palestine shift. Moving from proposed peace plans to diplomatic shifts, our next story centers on Australia's significant announcement. Amid a deepening humanitarian crisis in Gaza, described by a coalition of 24 countries as reaching unimaginable levels, Australia has stated its intention to formally recognize a Palestinian state at the United Nations in September. Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese sharply criticized Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, stating he is in denial over the suffering. This marks a notable shift in their diplomatic stance.
This move by Canberra, synth, underscores the mounting global pressure building around the Gaza crisis. It's not isolated. We're also seeing economic responses, such as Norway's sovereign wealth fund divesting from Israeli companies due to the situation. Prominent cultural figures, including Madonna and U2, have also publicly spoken out, amplifying the humanitarian concerns. Now, it's important for our viewers to understand the scope of this reporting. The story of Australia's intent is widely corroborated across numerous international news organizations. The direct quotes from Prime Minister Albanese in the context of the crisis are consistently reported by sources ranging from state-owned broadcasters to independent news agencies, providing robust verification.
So, a clear diplomatic signal backed by broad journalistic consensus. What are the long-term strategic implications of such a significant shift in recognition, Echo, particularly given the ongoing conflict?
The long-term implication, synth, is a potential recalibration of the international approach to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. Australia's move could embolden other nations, particularly in Europe, to follow suit, further isolating Israel diplomatically and strengthening the international legal standing of Palestinian statehood. It shifts the narrative from future negotiation to existing sovereignty, potentially increasing pressure for a two-state solution based on pre-1967 borders and reshaping the dynamics of future peace processes. It underscores how the humanitarian crisis is driving significant geopolitical shifts. Next up, US-China tariff pause.
Turning now to global economics, the United States and China have agreed to extend their tariff truce for an additional 90 days. This temporary de-escalation in their long-standing trade dispute aims to provide breathing room for negotiations and has already offered a measure of relief to global markets.
Indeed, this pause has seen a direct impact, contributing to a retreat in the price of gold, a traditional safe haven, as immediate geopolitical fears eased. However, beneath the surface of this ceasefire, the strategic competition continues unabated, particularly in the technology sector. We're seeing reports indicating that Beijing is actively urging Chinese firms to shun chips from the US manufacturer NVIDIA. Now, it's important to clarify the nature of these reports regarding NVIDIA. While the tariff extension itself is widely confirmed by numerous reputable international and business news outlets, the specifics of China's directives to its firms about NVIDIA are primarily emerging as reports or unconfirmed claims in some headlines, though they are a consistent part of the broader narrative.
So, a confirmed truce, but persistent, less visible friction. What are the long-term strategic implications of this dynamic, where overt conflict is paused but underlying competition intensifies?
The long-term implication, is a clear signal that the US-China relationship is shifting from a broad trade war to a more targeted, strategic technology competition. This tariff truce, while welcome, serves as a temporary band-aid, allowing both sides to rearm in the tech race. The focus on critical components like semiconductors points to a future where supply chain resilience and technological independence will be paramount national security concerns, potentially fragmenting the global tech ecosystem into distinct spheres of influence. It suggests a new Cold War, fought not with missiles, but with microchips.
A technological battleground beneath a diplomatic calm. Next, we turn to the latest on climate policy, the UN's new Fossil Fuel Exit report. Next up, South China Sea collision? From economic tensions to geopolitical flashpoints, we now turn to the South China Sea, where a concerning incident has reportedly occurred. In a significant escalation, two Chinese warships are said to have collided with each other while in pursuit of a Philippine vessel. This event, if confirmed, underscores the increasing volatility and risk of miscalculation in the highly contested maritime region.
Indeed, this report, if accurate, marks a sharp intensification of what has been a series of increasingly frequent and aggressive encounters between Chinese and Philippine ships. It speaks directly to the inherent dangers when naval forces operate in such close proximity, particularly in an area where territorial claims are so fiercely disputed. Now, it's critically important to note, that this is a major claim currently reported by a single source, Eurasia Business News. Our confidence score for this particular incident is low due to the lack of corroboration from major international news agencies at this time. While the event, if confirmed, is of very high significance, we must emphasize that independent verification is still pending.
So, a developing situation requiring careful verification, What are the long-term strategic implications of such an incident, should it be confirmed, for regional stability and international law?
The long-term implication, irrespective of this specific incident's full confirmation, is the escalating risk of accidental conflict in a global flashpoint. Even without a direct collision, the pattern of aggressive maneuvers and close calls increases the likelihood of an unintended spark. This could force major powers like the US to redefine their engagement in the region, testing the limits of their alliances and potentially drawing them into a direct confrontation. It also challenges the principle of freedom of navigation and the efficacy of international maritime law in preventing escalation in these contested waters.
A volatile situation demanding close watch. Next, we examine new sanctions against Russia and Iran.
Next up, EU's 19th sanctions wave.
Next, we examine new sanctions against Russia and Iran. Turning to the ongoing economic pressure campaign against Russia, the European Union is reportedly preparing its 19th package of sanctions. This continuous effort aims to further cripple Moscow's war economy. Reports indicate that existing sanctions are already having a significant impact, with diamond giant Alrosa, for instance, seeing its revenue devastated.
That devastation for companies like Alrosa certainly illustrates the intended effect, However, Russia continues to seek methods of circumvention. We're seeing increasing reports of a shadow fleet of gas carriers being utilized to call at sanctioned Arctic terminals, effectively moving energy exports outside the conventional, scrutinized channels. Now, it's important to clarify the nature of these reports. While the European Union's move towards a new sanctions package is widely corroborated across numerous international news organizations, the specific details on Russia's shadow fleet evasion are often provided by specialized outlets like the Barents Observer. Additionally, some broader analyses, particularly regarding the sanctions' impact on Ukraine's side, can stem from sources like United 24 Media, a Ukrainian state-affiliated outlet, whose perspective should be noted.
So, a clear signal of continued pressure, yet an ongoing battle of economic wits. What are the long-term strategic implications of this persistent cycle of sanctions and evasion? Echo.
The long-term implication, synth, is a fundamental restructuring of global trade and energy logistics, driven by geopolitical isolation. Sanctions, even if partially evaded, compel nations to build parallel economic infrastructures and supply chains, leading to a more fragmented global economy. For Russia, this means a deeper reliance on partners willing to operate outside Western frameworks, potentially solidifying new economic blocs. It signifies a protracted struggle where economic tools become primary weapons, fundamentally altering established norms of international commerce and creating a permanent gray market for sanctioned goods.
Next up, U.S. accuses Iran directly. Turning from the broader economic pressure against Russia to a more direct accusation, the United States is now formally accusing Iran of enabling Houthi attacks on Red Sea shipping. Washington is calling on the United Nations to hold violators of the arms embargo accountable. Simultaneously, new U.S. sanctions target 18 entities helping Iran evade existing sanctions, further tightening economic pressure.
This direct accusation, synth, marks a significant escalation in the U.S. response to the Red Sea disruptions. It connects the Houthi attacks, which have severely impacted global shipping lanes, directly to Tehran's regional influence. The new sanctions simultaneously target the financial architecture sustaining Iran's wider operations. Now, it's important to differentiate the reporting here. While the U.S. statements and sanctions are verified facts by numerous international news agencies, some broader analyses, particularly those from outlets like Israel Hayom, offer a specific political viewpoint on the regional dynamics. These pieces provide context, rather than new factual reporting.
So, a clear, verified escalation from the U.S., with nuanced interpretations of broader regional implications. What are the long-term strategic implications of this direct accusation and renewed pressure? Echo.
The long-term implication, synth, is a direct challenge to Iran's regional proxy strategy and a potential hardening of diplomatic lines. By explicitly linking Tehran to Houthi actions, the U.S. signals a zero-tolerance approach to destabilizing influence. This could lead to increased maritime militarization, further economic isolation for Iran, and heightened risk of miscalculation in the Middle East, potentially reshaping regional alliances.
A tense situation with far-reaching consequences. Next, we examine growing instability at the WTO.
Next up, WTO System on Brink.
Turning from direct accusations to systemic challenges, our next focus is on the World Trade Organization, where a deep and persistent deadlock threatens its core function. The WTO's dispute settlement system, designed to peacefully resolve trade conflicts, has been paralyzed for years, hindering global commerce.
Indeed, synth, this issue, outlined in a recent white paper from the Heinrich Foundation, highlights the profound implications of an appellate body rendered largely ineffective. It's a failure that undermines the very mechanism meant to prevent trade wars. Now, it's crucial to contextualize this report, synth. While the issue itself is well documented and profoundly significant, this specific analysis originates from a white paper by the Heinrich Foundation. It's important to remember they are a philanthropic organization focused on trade issues, so their report is a deep dive into an existing problem, rather than breaking news of a new event.
So, an established, critical problem, detailed by a specific, respected trade-focused analysis. What are the long-term strategic implications of this systemic failure for the rules-based international economic order?
The long-term implication, synth, is a profound erosion of trust and predictability in global trade. Without an effective mechanism for dispute resolution, nations may increasingly resort to unilateral actions, protectionism, or direct retaliation. This systemic failure undermines decades of effort to build a stable, rules-based trading environment, potentially leading to greater economic fragmentation and a more volatile international landscape where power politics, rather than agreed-upon rules, dictate commercial relations.
A critical breakdown in global economic governance. Next up, Thai-Cambodia border fallout. Turning from global economic governance to regional flashpoints, our next story highlights escalating tensions along the border between Thailand and Cambodia. This dispute has already led to significant economic fallout, with Cambodia's imports from Thailand reportedly plummeting by 44% in July. The friction appears to stem from a popular Thai army commander's actions, pitting him directly against the Cambodian government.
This isn't just a localized economic dip, synth, it's a reignition of historical border tensions. Such direct clashes, even if currently economic, underscore a persistent vulnerability in Southeast Asia's regional stability, potentially testing the coherence of ASEAN as a mediating body. Now, it's important to frame this report within its current verification scope, synth. While the core narrative of escalating tensions and the economic impact is corroborated by a couple of regional news sources, the very specific claim of a 44% drop in imports is a significant figure. While reported, the direct causation and full context behind this precise percentage would certainly benefit from wider, independent reporting to solidify its broader implications.
So, a confirmed escalation of tension with a significant, though still nuanced, economic consequence. What are the long-term strategic implications of this kind of persistent border friction for Southeast Asia?
The long-term implication, synth, is a potential destabilization of a critical sub-region. Border disputes, especially those involving popular nationalist figures, can quickly escalate beyond economic skirmishes into broader political or even military standoffs. This specific friction challenges the spirit of cooperation within ASEAN, potentially creating fissures that external powers, particularly China, might exploit to further their own influence. It highlights that unresolved historical grievances remain potent threats to regional peace and integration, demanding sustained diplomatic engagement to prevent wider conflict. Next up, Syrian infrastructure attack.
Moving from global trade to regional instability, our next story takes us to Syria. In an incident indicative of ongoing volatility, members of the public security forces and local Bedouin members reportedly set fire to a water resources building in the village of Volga. This event, according to the Syrian Observatory for Human Rights, points to localized conflicts and the further deterioration of public infrastructure amid the country's protracted humanitarian crisis.
Indeed, synth, this is more than just an isolated incident. It's a stark illustration of how deep the infrastructure breakdown goes, and how local grievances are intersecting with the broader chaos. Such destruction directly impacts access to essential services for an already vulnerable population. Now, it's critically important to clarify the nature of this report, synth. The story comes primarily from a single source, the Syrian Observatory for Human Rights, or SOR. While frequently cited, SOR is a UK-based monitoring group sometimes considered a partisan source by various parties in the conflict. Our confidence in this specific claim, particularly the precise details of who was involved in the exact causation, is somewhat lower due to the current lack of external corroboration from other major international news agencies.
So, a concerning reported event from a specific source, highlighting the fragile situation. What are the long-term strategic implications of this kind of localized destruction and ongoing infrastructure breakdown in Syria, Echo?
The long-term implication, synth, is a perpetuation of Syria's fractured state and a profound obstacle to any form of post-conflict recovery. When basic infrastructure like water resources is destroyed, it deepens the humanitarian crisis, fuels internal displacement, and creates conditions ripe for further localized clashes, making effective governance and reconstruction virtually impossible. It ensures Syria remains a highly unstable and vulnerable ground for years to come.
A grim picture of ongoing challenges. And that concludes our top stories for today.
Looking at the day's events, one theme is clear. The path to peace or even de-escalation is rarely clean. Territorial swaps, conditional recognition, temporary truces, they're all tools of statecraft, but each comes with a high price and no guarantee of a lasting resolution.
Which leads to the central question. Will these high-stakes diplomatic plays lead to lasting stability, or are they merely delaying inevitable conflict? We encourage you to share your perspective in the comments. For more nuanced global analysis, please subscribe to the Global Brief. On this day in 1499, the first engagement of the Battle of Zonchio occurred between Venetian and Ottoman fleets, a pivotal moment in naval warfare.
We'll see you next time on the Global Brief.